Hi guys, this video I want to speak about three things that were really detrimental to me in terms of understanding my whole processes for trading from a overall perspective. We can see here on the screen I have these things called the three pillars of trading, and these were something I learned very early on about at the start of my trading journey, but I didn't really fully grasp the importance of them until later on. And this just makes up the three kind of areas that we really need to understand in full to be successful as a trader on the whole. Um, the first, the three pillars that you can see here are strategy, risk, and psychology, and different things break down into each one of these sections specifically. So, I want to run through them, but the analogy that is really useful to have when you're thinking about these is if I compare trading to driving a car. We'll say trading is driving, and we need three different aspects to be able to drive a car successfully. So, strategy is the education, the ability to understand the car, how it works. That we have a gear stick, a steering wheel, an accelerator, a clutch, and all of these different things. I need to understand the combinations of all of those to make my ability to drive successful. Then the next one we have on top of that is risk. So with risk, I use that as my airbag and my seatbelt. So if I'm driving and I understand what to do, mistakes can still happen, errors can still come in my way, unexpected things happen, but my seatbelt and my airbag protect me. Because if I crash or if I lose control, they've locked me in into a sense that I will be able to survive whatever is thrown at me, even when it does. Then psychology is the driver. So I am the driver of that. So if I understand the aspects of how to drive a car and I know I'm safe, when I'm driving the car, I know all the rules of the road. I know when to stop at a red light. I know all the safety precautions and all of these things. And I know that if, say, for example, I'm driving along and I have experience on the road, um, I'm coming to a hill that I can't see where the road goes before I actually cross over the hill itself. So I don't know if the road is going left, right, or straight. My psychology allows me to slow down and go, well, I need to figure out or I need to see in advance where the road is going to go as I cross that hill. And my experience is telling me slow down before I reach that point so I can then make that decision of where the road is going to go and follow that position so I don't crash. So I'm not accelerating over a hill and then like spinning out because something is in the way and I lose control of the car. Um, I'm not looking at my phone as I'm driving, and that's affecting my strategy in terms of my understanding of driving because I lose control. I may be veering off to the side. So these three pillars of trading are essential for you to get your head around, and without these three combined, your trading is never going to be successful. So you can't just approach the stock market like I need to know the best strategy that's going to get me over the line every time. My strategy is everything. If you don't have the risk parameters in place and you don't have the psychology to apply that strategy, you're going to fail. And then it works the same way on the two other levels. So if I have great strategy and great psychology, but I over risk on every trade that I take, those one or two trades are going to blow my account because my risk hasn't been in alignment with what the strategy prevails, or because I over risk, I waste all my money. Even though maybe it doesn't affect me psychologically, I go, "Oh, it's fine. I'll get it back next time," and my strategy dictated that. We're gonna lose trades regardless of our strategy, and that's just the way it is. So we need to have that risk in place in order to survive the two other aspects of this as well. And then the psychology of it. This is where, well, what I would consider is probably the most important pillar. And this is the area that most people fail on because, again, I can have a strategy that I can prove over and over and over again that it just works, it leads to winning trades. I can manage my risk But if my psychology doesn't allow me to execute the strategy and the risk parameters correctly, because it comes down to I'm afraid of losing, or I'm trying to perfect every single entry that I take and make sure it's to the tick every single time. Or on the other side aspect of it is I'm really bad at those things. I maybe take a losing trade and I jump back in on a revenge trade, or I don't I get fear of missing out, so I'm saying I'm going to lose this trade if I don't jump in right now, rather than waiting for the entire process of the system to play out effectively. So these three pillars are something that we really need to get our head around. And if you don't put value behind each of these, if you say, oh, I don't really need to do that, my strategy is okay and my risk is okay, but my psychology is poor, you're just going to fail every time. It's happened to me over and over and over again. I've exited trades too early, even though my strategy and my risk were good, but my psychology was poor. And then the trade goes on to actually win based off the setup, because the strategy and the risk were good. I exited at it like a break even, or move my stop loss too early, or whatever it is, because I just couldn't handle that physical, that emotional pain that I was going through watching price come back to my entry level or whatever it was. So all of these things, like I said, combined are gonna put you in a much better position, but you need to journal everything with these. So what I would say is, when you're logging your trade, so you take a setup, whether it wins or loses, you speak about not only what the setup was, but did you stick to your risk parameters? Did you only risk the maximum amount of risk that you wanted to on that trade? And if you didn't, note it down as a mistake. Same with the strategy. If you took a winning trade and it wasn't 100% in line with what your strategy is, that's a loss, because you didn't stick to the process. And although you won that trade that time, that will not do you any favors in the future. That is going to lead to losses again in the future as you go through this, because the inability to stick to your process across the board will lead to mistakes in the future, regardless of what you think, or regardless of how good you feel after getting a winning trade. Same with the risk. You might risk more on a specific trade because you think it's a perfect setup or whatever, but again, it's a loss, because if you set rules for yourself and parameters for yourself that you want to stick to on a regular basis, and you're not sticking to them, it's a loss every time. And then psychology on top of that, all of this will be the hardest aspect, because if you don't and again, just another example of how they're combined. If you have a strategy and you don't trust it because you don't execute it properly every time, that will then have a knock-on effect on your risk, because if you're not trusting your strategy, you're not going to trust how much risk you're going to put on. You're going to get pissed off, and all of that affects your psychology. But if you can stick to your strategy and stick to your risk parameters every time, the impact on your psychology that's going to have is you're going to build trust and confidence in your own abilities, that no matter what happens, you're not going to put yourself into a position where you're blowing your account every single time, because you've said, I'm applying that risk and that strategy in the same manner regardless of what happens. I'm going to allow it to happen, and that's it. Your confidence will go through the roof through that process. You won't be fearing missing out on trades. You will reward yourself every time you execute something to perfection, whether it's a win or a lose. If you can execute it all to perfection, you've nothing to fear. And that's essentially what it comes down to. So learning these and training these three different pillars, it's going to put you ahead of the game. Not having these in place is the reason why the majority of traders fail. And I can guarantee that with all certainty. This will be the hardest area for you to get your head around. But practice sticking to rules of your strategy, rules of your risk, and your psychology will strongly follow right behind you on that as well. So I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions or comments, just pop them in there. Follow my Discord, and please subscribe to this and share this with any other traders that you think might be struggling. I'm always here to help. Thank you.